r/AskReddit. What was your creepy unexplained experience as a child? When my brother and I were kids, our mom and grandma left us in the car one day when they ran into the supermarket. There was an old-looking car like a Lincoln or a Cadillac parked nearby. A man in a zoot suit type outfit with a feather in his hat like a cartoon pimp would wear got out and went around to the back. He opened his trunk and two ladies climbed out of the trunk, a white woman in a black dress and a black woman in a white dress. Both were formal-looking dresses. The white woman saw us looking at her and stared at us. She kept staring at us for a minute. It was kind of an intense stare but also empty at the same time. I remember feeling nervous, so I told my brother to look away. He asked me why and I said just do it, and we both looked away. I have no idea, but I remember freaking out and for some reason really didn't want the man to see us too. I kind of sunk down into the floor for a few minutes and they were gone when I looked again. I asked my brother if he saw where they went and he said they went in the store. We agreed that was weird. We told my mom when she got back, but she didn't believe it and she and my grandma laughed. She said if anyone dressed like that was in the store she would have seen them. My brother and I have talked about it a few times since. He still remembers it clearly and so do I, but he says he didn't feel scared like I did, just thought it was really strange. I still feel kind of weird when I think about it. I tried cutting grass on the side of a hill on a riding lawnmower when I was about 11 years old. It was too steep of an angle, and it rolled over on me. I was completely stuck. After a minute or so of wriggling around I panicked. The next thing I remember is standing up next to the mower after blacking out. I don't know how I got out from under, I assume adrenaline. When I was like 3 years old I used to tell my parents that Mr. Happy visited me at night. I have zero memory of ever being visited by someone at night, and whenever my dad tells the story he always mentions how badly it freaked him out. Lol. This probably has a rational explanation, but I never found out what it was. When I was 8, we lived in an apartment with very thin walls. I could hear the married couple having sex at night, all the time. It always felt funny seeing them the next day. One day I was sick and stayed home from school, but my mom still had to go to work. So I just remained alone in my bedroom, watching cartoons. I was really nauseous and drifting in and out of sleep when I heard a tapping. Initially ignored it, but the sound became rapid, more insistent. Tap 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 tap. I was too sick to care when a deep, low voice said, "Hello." Quote, I froze in bed, believing a murderer broken in and the voice was coming from inside the apartment. But it was coming from the other side of the wall. He said lots of things. I don't remember it all. Hello. Where are you? I'd like to meet you. Tell me where you are. Quote, I had been throwing up in the toilet all day and couldn't take any more, so I didn't respond. I burrowed further into my sheets and tried to ignore the voice. When my mom came home she had Rocky Road ice cream because she felt sorry for me, and I was so excited about the ice cream I forgot to mention what happened. In my late teens I had a nightmare. I just remember walking by a ditch and seeing a dead woman with red hair lying face down in the water. All the next day I felt unsettled by it. A week later I read in the paper about a murder in a neighboring town. This guy had kidnapped a young woman with red hair. Her body was found in a ditch, exactly like my dream. When I saw her picture on the news, I realized she went to my high school, a year older than me. I didn't know her but recognized her. The coincidence creeped me out so much. It was a decade before I shared the story with anyone. About 11 years old. Got up in middle of night to go to bathroom. Partway down the hallway and felt a force around me. I was frozen in terror in that spot for a moment. I was awake. 66 now and never have forgotten it. When I was little I would hallucinate if I was sick. My mum recalls me seeing a wolf following her, etc. But she said the one thing that used to freak her out was two children I said I could see in the garden. I told her that they wanted me to play with them, to which my mum would look out into the front garden and see nothing. One night I was sleeping walking, which wasn't something that I used to do. I was about 5 and it wasn't that late, so my parents were in the living room. I remember waking up with tears in my face and my mum hugging me while my dad was walking around the garden and looking around. From what my mum tells me, she and my dad heard me screaming and ran to find I wasn't in my bed and saw the front door open, and outside I was kneeling on the ground screaming and crying. Apparently I would shouted, "Leave me alone," and my arms were pushing at air as if I was trying to bat something away. To this day the front door's locked and the keys are hung up on a hook. My mum swears that I was in the same spot that I always said the two children were standing. Hamster man. I was 5 and my aunt was 12, she was walking me home from ballet class. We were walking along a dirt road back to the house, this was back in the 60s, when this man in a big white car stopped alongside us and asked for directions. I noticed he had a hamster in his lap. I asked my aunt why he had a hamster and she said never mind. The next month my parents took me in to the optometrist for glasses. When I was a baby, me and my brother slept in the same room in an apartment with our pre-divorce parents. At certain times in the night, a shadow would go from the bathroom into my brother and I's room. It never really did anything bad, just walked around. Until one night when I started crying, my mom came into our room and saw the shadow standing over me and reaching for me. She didn't like that and so took us to local McDonald's. We soon moved out and haven't been there since. I had this couch with a couple springs missing, they popped up and my dad removed them from the inside, so you sat really low on that section, almost as if you're getting sucked into the couch. My brother and I used to fight over who had to sit there when watching TV downstairs. I usually made him do it. An X200B. One day I had some friends over for a sleepover, I was on the couch, my buddies were on yoga mats on the floor. I felt a kick in the night, thought it was one of my buddies and told him politely to duck off. Another kick, right under my back, how is that possible? I got up, turned on the lamp, and my buddies were both passed out. An X200B. I went back to the couch, took off the cushion and looked. Nothing. Get back on the couch, turn off lamp behind me and try to go to sleep. It must have been only a few minutes when my one friend whispered who the other dude was when I turned on the light. I said, "What?" He said something like, "You turned on the lamp." I was pretending I was asleep because I thought it was your parents. I saw someone standing behind the couch, it wasn't your dad. We then all got freaked out, ran upstairs to my room and slept in there instead of the basement. A few weeks later I get home from school and my dad is tossing the couch in the back of his pickup. I assumed he bought a new one, but no, he said he was sick of seeing it in his house because it was his dad's, and his dad always used to rough him up when he was younger. Usually by poking him in the back where his shirt would hide the bruises. I was outside my house, and an old stray dog was walking down the street. It was a blonde dog. It completely ignored me, and as it passed, at least the way I remember it, this blonde dog was suddenly a black dog. It was just for a second, but I know I wasn't dreaming. I still can't explain it. Edit, from what I remember, nothing else that I could see changed at the time that this happened with the dog. No clouds passed over the sun, I wasn't blinking, I wasn't dizzy. Everything was completely normal, except for whatever happened with that dog. I was fighting with my dog on top of my bed and suddenly the light in my closet turned on. It was creepy because it was the type of light that was turned on by clicking a string. Sorry, can't think of the specific term right now. When I was like 3, my family lived in a condo and it was springtime, around Easter, and I remember we walked outside one morning to find a bunch of small chocolate eggs candy on our front lawn. My parents didn't put them there and neither did any of our neighbors. The strange thing about it was, there was holes in all of them. We never were able to explain how they got there. Another weird experience would be, when I was in about 8th grade. I was on the couch in the basement and in the basement we had sliding glass doors and the doors would lead out to a small deck and then the backyard. There were woods directly behind. At night the sliding glass doors were very dark. You couldn't really see out of them from the inside, but standing outside you could see in, which I never liked, always felt weird and like I was being watched. Well, this night I was watching TV on the couch and my head and eyes were facing the doors. I suddenly saw a bright flash of light come from the outside of these doors. It was like a camera flash, and as I see this I have the realization that I am unable to move. I was completely paralyzed. I was unable to move, scream. I am not sure how long it lasted, it was probably like 2 minutes tops. And when I finally came completely aware and able to move I realized I had pissed all over myself. It sounds like an episode of sleep paralysis, but I was never asleep. I for some reason have memories of being able to fly in my room. I know it is probably some dream that stuck with me, but they seem real. Skeptical smiley face. Woke up in the middle of the night with dry throat. Looked out my window to see my mother in her wedding dress floating and phased through my window. Her eyes went red, then she phased out and disappeared. Then I fell back asleep. Lived in a pretty rural area. Forested with a small brook. Chickens out back, garden in the front. Don't want to share a room with my little brother anymore. Get an old downstairs study turned into a bedroom. Very bad idea. Many years of creepy experiences that were all in my head from being on the bottom floor. 4 a.m. Very dark. But Dogo wants toilet. We don't have a door for him, so I have to let him out and wait, and let him back in. Dog walks into pitch blackness of front garden. I stare at the dark shapes waiting for him to come back. Suddenly from the drive to the left, a man-shaped dark smudge starts walking into the garden. Around the tree. Through the garden and round to the back of the house. I'm ducking, pooping myself. No sign of dog. Dog is German Shepherd Rottweiler crossbreed. Surely he would attack intruder? Waiting impatiently for dog. So scared. Come on dog. Scary figure is here somewhere. Don't wanna be indoor waiting. The figure appears again, back the way it came. Y'alright onions have lair action? It's my uncle. Dog returns. No bark cause he knew uncle. Uncle leaves without another word. Okay, so the next day I question as to why the duck my uncle turns up at 4 a.m. at our house. Apparently he feeds the ducking chickens, at 4 in the morning, and has been doing it every night for years. The part that remains unexplained to this day to me is why on earth he did it. He retired early so he had no work, and we lived way away, so why drive to ours in the middle of the night to feed the chickens? Why not just come in the day and say hello to his family? Weird as duck.